Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining the webinar. My name is Rahul. I head the QA practice at Nividous. During the webinar, we will learn how you can transform your testing team into Agile organization using test automation. Before we begin, I would like to give a quick overview of Nividous. Nividous is a company that's been around for over 6 years. We operate through 4 offices across USA and India. We have customers across 4 continents. The core team has deep roots in product engineering and software development and has helped build out one of the top 3 products worldwide in the business process management space. Our automation product is built by leveraging that experience of over 20 years. We have deep expertise in products that cut across all the major areas of an enterprise, including end-to-end process solutions and automation, data solutions, interfaces, and outsourced process development. The major domains that we service are banking and financials, insurance, etc. We have been recognized for our unique solutions and have won many prestigious awards for our innovations. I would also like to quickly highlight the Nividous QA practice and offerings. We have multiple offerings, from manual testing to automated testing, performance and load testing. In traditional development methodologies like waterfall, the software development is executed in phases, as you can see, and the testing starts only after the development is complete. When testing early, certain tests are repetitive in nature. Handling them manually requires a lot of time and does not leave much scope for the QA engineers to work much ahead of time. Test automation hence is the key for quicker progress at higher quality and maintaining agility. Test automation have evolved over time, starting from record and playback to scripting capabilities, then gaining data-driven and keyword-driven approaches to hybrid approach, which is a combination of data-driven and keyword-driven approaches. We are now moving towards codeless automation, since widespread agile adoption has led to a demand for quicker turnaround for building automation tests. Nividous automation framework has codeless automation capability. By now we know that test automation is critical for software development and testing, and for producing high quality deliverables. Let's have a look at some of the challenges in test automation, and also Nividous automation solution in form of multi-layer automation framework. So the challenges are maintenance intensive. Any kind of automation framework would be maintenance intensive for all the changes happening to the product from time to time. Fragile in nature. For example, if one ID changes from the UI or the layout changes, we have problems. It requires programming experience. Most QA engineers are not natural programmers. They don't have deeper development experience to do the kind of programming that may be required for development of automation scripts or code. But programming experience is required to create more reusable framework for test execution. Most of the automation solution has minimal reuse capability. Other automation frameworks may not be built with reusability in mind. We have built a solution for test automation which follows a multi-layer approach. Here is the solution. The multi-layer approach for test automation. The lowest layer is the utility layer. This layer takes care of access to the database, file system, etc. It's a one-time development from point of framework. We have also been able to manage automating legacy, mainframe, command line interfaces through secure FTP, Telnet, SSH, or any other means where we connect remotely to those systems to do verification of some of the data that is entered through the web pages. Middle layer is the steps layer. This layer implements the automation execution. Reusable modules are built in this layer. This uses hybrid automation development approach, that is keyword driven and data driven approaches. It lets itself easily to automate various systems. For example, if you have a new website or internal intranet, then one-time development for any specific access that the intranet needs for verifying certain databases or file system can be built in this layer. The topmost layer is the test layer, where we define test cases in simple Excel sheets. We just have to open an Excel sheet and work only on the sheet to define all the scenarios that needs to be automated. And all this is done through zero programming. Now let's see how this is done. We have a simple Excel with test case ID column, description column, and the run mode column. The run mode column indicating whether the test case should be executed or not. Then we have the test step sheet where we define the test steps for the test cases. A comprehensive test execution report is generated at the end of test execution. It shows how many test cases were passed, failed, and skipped, along with the time duration. The report also provides the screenshot of where the failure occurred. Nividous Automation Framework has out-of-the-box support for mobile and tablets. Code is written once and executed on platforms using the combination of APM and Selenium. Nividous Test Automation Framework comes with unique benefits, such as accelerated automation, where the business users can easily create test cases in simple Excel sheets, and the complexity is reduced with the multi-layer approach. And all the automation can be done without coding. Nividous Test Automation Framework has multiple features. Let's run through some of the features. Scenario-driven testing to create end-to-end scenarios in minutes. Business and user-friendly, where users can easily write test cases in spreadsheets such as Excel and Google spreadsheets. There is no need for the user to learn any new environment. Coding knowledge is not required. Quick object identification is made possible using label-based approach. Easy parameterization enables multiple datasets as input to the same logical test. Keyword-driven and data-driven testing with readily available keywords to quickly create powerful and reliable tests without investing valuable time in coding. Create keywords to extend functionality. You will never be stuck at any point with the tool, since you can extend it by writing your own keywords to extend the functionality. The framework has the ability to leverage formulas in spreadsheet with multi-browser support and image comparison to identify changes in the UI. Advanced reporting with detailed test analysis and graphical dashboards. Failures are logged with screenshot for review. Test execution control to allow skipping tests. Platform and device compatibility where same test works across browsers, tablets, and mobile devices. Let us have a look at a case study of loan origination process for one of our client who had problem in automating their manual process and how we managed to solve the problem using Nividous Test Automation Framework. The problem faced by the client was the analyst was spending almost 3 to 4 hours to configure loans and almost 16 hours to complete execution of scenarios related to loan setup and couple of more hours to report bugs. In this way, almost 20 hours was spent on testing only on one module out of the major 5 modules. In every 4 weeks, new changes were released in production by the customer. The client's internal automation team tried but failed to automate due to the complexity of the process and application. The manual process had repeated actions with changing data, and the application had custom UI controls with dynamically changing IDs, thereby making the identification of elements and automation very difficult for their team. Solution to the problem was Nividous Test Automation Framework, and the features of the framework which were used to achieve the client requirement were readily available library of keywords which enabled out-of-the-box automation. Test cases in Excel without coding help to create test scenarios and test steps using simple English and entirely in plain Excel sheet. Easy parameterization feature enabled multiple datasets for the same logical test. With label-based approach for quick object identification, the objects were quickly identified using their labels without worrying about the changing IDs or location. Multiple elements having same label, example address blocks, were also easily identified without any problems using labels with index of the elements in that group. With extendable framework, custom logic or keyword as per need were added by extending existing keywords. We were also able to leverage Excel's own powerful formulas in test cases without any custom coding. Browser compatibility feature made the test cases ready for execution on multiple browsers. And with the business user friendly features, the stakeholders, analysts, and even the non-technical personals were able to easily read and understand the Excel test cases and were also able to make changes and suggestions as per their needs. For total 12 releases in a year, required man hours with manual testing was 1200 and to build new test cases were 300. Therefore, total 1500 man hours were required for manual testing. As we see, the Nividous Test Automation Framework was able to bring down the man hours from 1500 to just 428. Hence, 1000 plus man hours were saved yearly for just one solution. Nividous used DevOps for automated build, configuration management, and test execution. And Nividous Test Automation Framework perfectly fits in DevOps. Let's have a look at a demonstration of how easy it is to automate using Nividous Test Automation Framework. The scenario we want to automate here is the bank account opening process. So here we have a simple Excel with 3 sheets. In the test case sheet, the test cases are defined. As we see here, we have already defined few test cases for automation, starting from the request for new bank account test case, where the test steps for new bank account request are automated. Then we have the create new bank account test case, where the test steps of customer providing the required details and submitting is automated. Then we have the login to process portal test case, where the steps of the bank agent performing the due diligence are automated. Then is the test case for login to bank portal. Here the test steps of customer logging into the bank portal with the received credentials and completing the application and then submitting it is automated. And the test steps for the test cases are defined in the test step sheet, and the actions to be performed on the UI element are defined in the keywords column. The framework has readily available keywords which can be selected from the keywords drop down, and the keywords will perform actions on the elements identified using the labels defined in the UI object name. And the data column contains the parameter name, and this parameter name will get the data from this data sheet, as you can see here. Here we can see how the data is systematically arranged under each parameter name. For example, the first name is Daniel and the last name is Ras, and this data will be provided by the parameter name, first name and last name to the test steps of the corresponding test case. Now the automation execution is started. It will browse to the bank URL. Please make a note that we have intentionally put in some waits so that you can observe what automation is doing. Otherwise it will just run through very quickly. Now the automation will go ahead and click the new account link. Here the new account link will be clicked. Here the data for the customer application is been entered. We have also captured baseline image for all the forms, and any changes to the forms will be highlighted in the final report. All the UI controls that we see are been identified using by just their labels. Over here the first name and last name which we see are also been identified using their label and their individual index. Similarly, the postal address block that we see, the fields are also identified using their label and its index. We have a duplicate email ID on this page. The first email ID we see over here and the second one is at the bottom of this page. These duplicate email ID fields will also be identified using the label and its index. Now the automation will go ahead and enter the first name and last name using the label and its index. And the radio buttons are selected using their labels, of course. And then it will enter the remaining data using their labels. Here the postal address fields are identified using the label and its index. And here we see the expiry date. The expiry date is being calculated in the Excel itself, and the framework has the capability to leverage that Excel formula, and it's been leveraged over here and calculated automatically for us. And the automation is entering that data in the expiry date field. Similarly, the automation will also enter the remaining values, and here the email ID is also been identified using its name and index. Now it will go ahead and fill in the other details and click the submit button. Now the account is successfully created. One more point I would like to highlight here is that the automation waits for the page to load completely before operating on it, so you will not have any issues of inconsistency while running it at different times or on different machines, where the machine can be slower or faster and the network bandwidth may differ. This makes it more robust. Now here the process portal will open, where the bank's CSC agent will log into the portal using the username and password. Now the automation is clicking the continue button. Now here we see that the application is open for due diligence and risk assessment. Now the bank agent can open this application for review. Once all the data is okay, the agent will go ahead and select the decision as Y and click submit. Now the customer will log into the bank account to complete the application. The credentials that the customer received will be used over here to log into the bank portal. Here the automation is looking for the field document upload in this page. So it will wait for the field to appear and then it will time out as it was not found and the error screenshot will be captured. We have a default timeout settings which can be overridden by the user. Now the automation will go ahead and click the submit button. After the completion of automation execution, a comprehensive test report is generated which shows how many test cases were passed and how many were failed, along with the dashboard which shows how many test cases passed, failed, how many test steps passed, failed, along with the pass percentage. We can see that the first test case is passed and the second test case is failed. The create new account test case failed because at step number 8 it was trying to compare the runtime image which was captured to the baseline image and there were some discrepancies, hence it failed. We also see that the remaining test steps are passed and the next test case login process portal test case is passed and the last test case login bank portal test case is failed because at step number 92 it was looking for the document upload button but it could not find it because of the timeout. We can even search for a particular test case if we want. To do that, we can type the test case name in the search box like this. The test report also provides the graphical dashboard which shows the total time taken for execution along with the start time, end time and the pass percentage with the test view and steps view. Now let us see how easy and fast it is to create automated test cases using simple Excel sheet. So here we have an Excel sheet with the test case sheet. Here we have already defined few test cases and in the test step sheet we can define the test steps for those test cases. So let's look at the request new account test case. So we'll copy this request new account test case ID and we'll paste it in under the test case ID column. And now we want to open a browser, so we selected the open browser there and it will provide the name for the browser using the data parameter name, browser name. This browser name is defined in the test data sheet as a data parameter name. Then let's increment this row number. So for the test step 2 we want to navigate to a particular URL. So that URL will be provided by the parameter name base URL. So here we'll enter the base URL in the data column. As a user, the next step would be I want to click that new account request link. So for that I have selected the keyword click link by link text in this keyword column. And what I want to click the link open a new account, which I had already copied and noted. So let's quickly try to test this out. The browser is open, that is Firefox browser is open and the URL is open and here we are able to click that link. open new account link, and the test case passed, and the 3 test steps are passed, the last step is also passed. So easy till now. Now let's see how to enter data into the form. So what we need to do is we want to enter data into the first name field. Okay, so what we will do is we will set the run mode for the second test case as Y. That is, create new account test case as Y, because if we want to execute it. If it's no, it will not execute. If it's yes, it will execute. So here we have provided the test case name, create new account, and the keyword we are selecting is input, because we want to enter data into the first name field. Okay, so now how to locate this first name field? So we can locate this using the label name. Here the label name is name, and the first name field is the first element of that name field, so we have included one over there. And here we'll also define the first name parameter, and we can pass the value as Daniel as of now here. So Daniel would be the first name that would go for the keyword input, which will look for the label name and the index 1, that is the first element, that is the first name. So the first name, that is Daniel, will go into the first element by the name label. Okay, similarly the last name can be entered. We'll create a parameter name as last name, and we'll specify the value, that is RAS, for the last name, and we'll put the name of the parameter name here, the last name. So the first name last name parameters are passed to these 2 test cases. Now next we want to select the radio button. It says mail, that is the label is mail. So for the same test case we will select the keyword radio click. So radio click, what we want to click, the radio button mail. So the label of that radio button is mail. We'll just specify the label by looking at the UI. We have specified the label. So we want to click mail, so label is specified over there. Now let's try to go for the country of residence. The country of residence is the drop down box. So we can identify country of residence also using label, which we have copied already, and now we will select the keyword select from drop down by value. Since it's a drop down, we want to select from that drop down by value, so that's why the keyword. So with this keyword we have specified the label name, so value can be India, parameter name would be country name. So the data parameter name we have specified as, the parameter name is country name, so the same parameter name is specified in this data column for that test step. Now let's look at this email field. So we want to enter in that email field, so we'll select the input keyword just like we did for name, and we'll want to enter into the first email field. I'll tell you why we want to enter in the first email field, why we included that index. So before that we will create the parameter name as email, and let's specify some value such as demo at the rate gmail.com. We'll format it a little. Okay, so parameter name email comes from the data sheet, goes to the first element of email. Now if I scroll down, there is one another field with the same label here. Here we can see, yeah, here Here we can see there is a field with that same label. That's the reason why we specified the first field to be identified using the index 1, and this next field can be identified using index 2. So we want to enter something, so we select keyword input. We'll select this okay. So before going on to the second email, let's select the expiry date label. Let's finish it off. So we will define the parameter name for this expiry date, and the value we will enter using the Excel formula, that is today plus 365. So this would be the expiry date. So this Excel formula would be easily leveraged by our framework during runtime. So the value is passed by the parameter name ed. So now let's go to the next step, and then we want to input, as we know that the second email is there, so it would be having the index 2. So the same label, but the index would be 2 because it's the second field with the same label. So I want to input something in the second email, so I will create a parameter name as email2, and let's specify some data for that email to, such as abc@gmail.com, and then copy this parameter name and we'll provide it here to this test step. So this test step will use this parameter name. Now we'll add another data set for the same test case. So what we want to do here is we want to execute that test case, that is create new account test case, with two data sets. The automation is started, Firefox is open, it will browse to the URL, it will click the link, open a new account, and then the next step would be entering the first name and last name using that label field. Remember, we specified the first name using the label name and index 1, last name would be index 2, so it's so easy to identify over here. And then here the email ID demo@gmail is entered. It came from the data parameter which was defined in the data sheet and which went as a input to the test step. We also specified that step to close, and here this expiry date is been calculated from Excel, and it was leveraged by the framework so easily. Here everything passed, new request, new account. So for new account we executed the same test case with two data sets. So first was executed with Daniel Raz, and the second was executed by Brad Trim. This brings us to the end of our demo. Hope you liked it.